Welcome back. When you look closely at the government's immigration policy, the greatest tool the government has isn't found in statutes or even the new policy of using local police to do immigration enforcement. The greatest tool at the government's disposal is fear. It always has been. You just have to be willing to instill fear by being cruel. And so even though we were told the federal government would be targeting criminals, the vast majority of the people we go after now are people with no criminal records, people who have lived here for years, raised families, contributed to making South Florida special. To heighten the fear, we snatch people off the street and throw them into the Chrome Detention Center or the Broward Transitional Center, where they are packed into cells or chained on buses. And then we threaten to send them to South Sudan or a torture prison in El Salvador in the hopes of breaking them so they give up their rights and agree to be deported without a hearing or due process. And there is no doubt it's effective. You just have to be willing to turn off that part of your humanity to do it. So what is happening inside the local detention centers? This week I spoke to Sui Chung, the Executive Director for Americans for Immigrant Justice, who has been documenting the conditions inside Chrome and other detention facilities here in South Florida.
So we've been monitoring now for many weeks the situation at Chrome, where the conditions have deteriorated rapidly. As arrests have increased, overcrowding has resulted in the detention facilities and a deterioration of the conditions overall, whether it is the overcrowding, whether it's access to counsel, whether it's access to medical care and proper designation of individuals in terms of where they are for their immigration relief, where they are in terms of the necessity for medical care. All of this has deteriorated because these facilities are over capacity. So Chrome has been, we've been looking at Chrome now for several weeks, if not months. Americans for Immigrant Justice did file a UN Human Rights Council report on the conditions at Chrome. We have firsthand accounts from individuals who have suffered during their time at Chrome. And we're hoping that there is some response pertaining to this situation because it has become very grave.
Give me a sense. When you say you're getting firsthand accounts, what are people telling you? What are folks inside of Chrome saying is happening to them there?
Well, for example, holding cells have been reported to be double, triple capacity, pretty much bodies against bodies, not having room to even lie down and sleep, bodies against bodies, so that individuals needing to use the toilet in the corner would have to wake others just for the pathway to get to the toilet. Days going by before individuals having access to call loved ones or counsel. Another factor that is impacting these conditions is the fact that there has been a loss of government funding as it pertains to Know Your Rights presentations and legal orientation programs. So what we may have detected, or individuals having some element of orientation on legal process or contact with an attorney, those structures have disintegrated so that the conditions, the awareness that nonprofits may have had and legal service providers may have had in the past doesn't exist anymore. So Americans for Immigrant Justice, we do have a detention hotline available to immigrants so that they can call our hotline, but first and foremost, they need to have access to that ability to find the information. It should be posted on the inside of the facility.
You're talking about a hotline actually inside a Chrome where they can sort of see, you know, here's a number that you can call to try to reach. Is that what you're referring to?
We have a detention hotline. We also have a rapid response hotline available to the public. So that we can be responsive to these issues when individuals cannot speak to family members or their counsel.
I know that you've also had some reports. Not only are folks being detained inside the facility and those cells itself, It's so overcrowded. You're hearing reports that people are actually being held for extended periods of time on buses at Chrome?
We did have those reports, and that did become a part of our UN Human Rights Council report, which were that individuals were being held for extended periods of time, hours, 17 hours, exceeding 24 hours, on buses, on the exterior of the facility, shackled within the buses, being forced to not have basic human needs attended to, overflowing toilets on those buses. So really dire conditions that we haven't seen before. And those individuals, there was no capacity within the facility to house them, that they were being placed on the buses for extended periods of time.
They're building now tents at Chrome, correct?
That's
What
what
is that going to look like? Yeah.
We've heard those reports. We are monitoring the situation. Obviously, we do have concerns that tents, irrespective of how much tents have developed over time, that they're temperature controlled, that they have stability, tents are still a temporary structure. So given the fact that they can be raised so quickly, similarly, in the location that we're in, Miami, Florida, entering hurricane season, we do have concerns about those structures and the increased capacity to hold individuals. I want to just remind that many individuals being detained right now are not individuals with criminal records. So there are vast numbers of people, family members, friends, colleagues, parents from schools, being arrested and enforcement action being taken against them. So very large numbers of individuals are not the dangerous people that are being promoted in the media. They are not criminals. They're not drug traffickers. They're not the rapists. They are people in our community, business owners and families, taking care of children, taking care of elderly parents, and a part of our society. And so remembering that we are paying exorbitant amounts of money to detain members of our community for what? Really, they are not a danger. They're contributors to our community. And the concept of family separation is happening on a daily basis in Miami, in the state of Florida, throughout the nation, because families are being separated every single day.
What can you tell me about the conditions at the Broward Transition Center?
Broward Transitional Center has been a facility that has concerned us for many years. We've been monitoring the facility in terms of the lack of attentiveness to medical care and the needs of the individuals that are placed there. So there was a death in the last weeks by a woman of Haitian descent. She did not receive the medical care that she needed at BTC, and she did die. And Representative Wilson did make a visit there because of the gravity of the situation. So in all facilities, facilities detaining immigrants, the lack of medical care has been an ongoing issue, whether people are being diagnosed, whether they're being seen, whether their medical concerns are being attended to fast enough, and whether their existing medical care or medications are being provided to them upon them being taken into custody.
In addition to Chrome and BTC, you were also telling me earlier that we're now also housing detained immigrants at the Federal Detention Center, the prison facility in downtown Miami. Fill me in more about this. Why are we holding undocumented folks at the Federal Detention Center?
Obviously, it has to do with capacity and the necessity for ICE to have more space. So we are placing individuals who don't have criminal histories in a facility like the Federal Detention Center. It is really concerning. The reports that we've received are that individuals are very precipitously being taken and transferred to the Federal Detention Center, oftentimes without their legal documents, without having access to counsel, they're not having access to legal mail, or legal mail is severely delayed. So this is very problematic because individuals are then having to move forward with their immigration defense. without access to the basics of what would allow them to formulate a defense for themselves. So we've heard that there are great concerns at the Federal Detention Center that we must address immediately, because individuals, again, when they're faced with these difficult decisions of harsh conditions, lack of communication, and lack of ability for a defense, they will agree to their deportation, or they will give up in their process. And that's deeply disturbing, because many of them will be harmed and persecuted, or are already on their way to a legal defense or legal relief. And this is forcing them to move forward with a process in a faster manner than what they should be doing. They should be engaging in what would be due process and a legal process that allows them a full and fair hearing.
We'll be right back after the break.